Before the town ever recorded a single natural death, more than 70 men were already buried on this hill. Some over silver, others over women, one over a dog. They called it a boomtown, but it felt more like an open grave with a payroll. Welcome to Pioche, Nevada, the most violent town of the Wild West. Within the arid mountains of eastern Nevada, Pioche rose hard and fast. I drove in expecting another forgotten mining town. A few weathered facades, a courthouse, a story or two left behind. But Pioche wasn't just another boomtown. In the 1870s, it was the kind of place where fortune and gunpowder lived side by side. Silver was discovered here in the late 1860s, and almost overnight, thousands of miners, gamblers, and drifters flooded in. Claims overlapped, tempers flared, and the only law that mattered was the one a man could enforce himself. For a brief, violent moment, this dry stretch of Nevada became the most valuable and most dangerous real estate in the West. After the initial silver strikes, Pioche didn't waste time easing into chaos. Two brothers, Tom and Ed Newland, decided to negotiate a bigger piece of someone else's mining claim at gunpoint. They hired guards to seize the Raymond and Ely mine, and the owners answered back with 4 men of their own. A midnight raid soon followed, which left one guard dead and the rest scattered in the dark. In Pioche, that passed for negotiation. One of those hired guns, Michael Casey, didn't stop there. A few weeks later, he shot a miner named Tom Gosson after refusing to pay interest on a $100 loan. Gosson lived just long enough to leave a $5,000 reward for the man who would kill Michael Casey. A gambler and gunfighter named James Levy took the challenge. He had met Michael Casey in one of the few recorded Wild West gunfights that actually resembled the movies. 2 men facing off in an alley in a quick draw. Levy struck Casey down in the duel. But before Levy could even holster the gun, another man, David Nagel, the same man who became Marshal of Tombstone after the OK Corral gunfight, put a bullet through his jaw. Levy lived, but he was scarred for life. Pioche lived too somehow, but by the end of 1872, it accounted for 60% of Nevada's total homicides. Pioche was drowning in its own legacy. This was daily life in the early years of the town. It was isolated, which made the law difficult to enforce. Lawmen were often cut down with the outlaws, and the innocent were no different. In 1872, Fanny Peterson, a Spanish courtesan, was shot in the street by her lover Lyman Fuller. Witnesses say he didn't say a word when he walked by her at 9 in the morning. He just started shooting. One evening in 1873, an argument over a dog turned the town into a shooting gallery. A butcher named Frank Schoonmaker brought a small dog into a nearby shop. A local constable and a few others stopped in and started playing rough with the animal. When the dog yelped, Schoonmaker protested. The constable apologized, and that should have been the end of it. But outside, another man mocked him for apologizing over a dog. More insults followed, punches were thrown, and within moments, gunfire. 3 shots rang out. 5 men were hit. One of them was John H. Lynch, who ran a chop house in town. The bullet struck him above the eye and lodged in his brain. Doctors were forced to cut open his skull, trying to relieve the pressure. He held on for days in agony before finally dying. The paper called it a lamentable affair, wedged between mine reports and liquor ads. That was Pioche, a town so used to death, it barely looked up from the page. That same year, a drifter calling himself Morgan Courtney showed up in town. He was a wanted murderer with a short temper and an even shorter fuse. But in Pioche, he met his match. When a series of arguments with another man named George McKinney looked like they would turn violent, McKinney wasted no time with the known killer. He unloaded 5 rounds into Morgan Courtney's back. No one cried over Courtney's murder. His tombstone, to this day, reads, "Feared by some, respected by few, detested by others. And on it went. Men shot by their partners, stabbed in saloons, frozen to death in the hills. One grave simply reads, "Shot by a coward. He worked his claim. No one even knew his name." Then, the silver veins thinned. Gamblers and hired guns drifted on to the next boom. And Pioche, the most violent town in the West, finally went quiet. Today, Pioche is a small community whose population swells and shrinks throughout the year as travelers pass by to get an authentic taste of the Old West. But on the edge of town, Boot Hill still quietly watches over all of them, the men and women who gave Pioche its deadly reputation. And standing here today, with the wind cutting through the sagebrush, it's hard to imagine it was ever any other way.